Biolume Part III, A Fullmoon Madness, is the latest full-length album from Midnight Odyssey, a Australian solo artist who sort of made Midnight Odyssey his kind of conglomerated force, where he's taken all the influences from other projects and sort of made put all of his work into this one big solo project. And this is sort of the culmination of a very big part of this artist's career in terms of the Biolume trilogy. It's also the biggest, longest album I think he's released to date, other than the compilation of Dungeon Synth releases from last year. As this is a 2 hour, I believe 2 hour and 5 minute record. It is a triple LP, just like the last one was, and it's just a few minutes longer than the previous record. Now I know it's so long and so involved to the point where I sort of have to discuss like how people listen to music today, and how this is so against the grain in terms of being such a huge record. And there have been other bands who've done similarly enormous sort of made enormous projects of these trilogies and triptychs and whatnot that they're working on this Voidhanger label. And so we kind of get the biggest one yet with this. And I'll end up having to ramble on a little bit here because I'm such a fan of not only this trilogy but this group. And Biolume Part II, The Golden Orb, rated very highly on my best of 2021. It really is an important record to me. It's in the background there on my record player right now, because it's something that I spent so much time with that year, where I felt like I was at peak escapism. And this record, it returns to some of those epic doom metal and epic heavy metal, and even kind of Viking like instrumentation and presentation. But this record decidedly tries to turn back to atmospheric black metal as deeply as it can, without losing kind of the atmosphere and the magic that was produced on the last record. So it's an enormous undertaking, and it's meant to be cumulative. I could say that much. I do think that it's meant to pull together elements of the first and second chapters of this trilogy, and kind of make a bigger presentation of it as we turn to the end of the lunar cycle here. So we'll cut to just a quick clip here. It's kind of another impossible record to clip because it's so long and so involved, but we'll cut to a representative piece that I think is worth listening to. It's a world that's So I think an interesting conversation to have about long, like a triple album or a triple LP, is that you sort of have to understand that a lot of this music is going to go out there only to die upon the ears that just won't have the patience or time for 125 minutes of music. And I chose to spend extra time with this record because I wanted to see how much all of those 125 minutes were meant to count. And I think that if you stay engaged and really pay attention to the compositions available here, they're rarely just wasting time with repetition. They're rarely just cycling back through a big motion for the sake of extending a phrase, but really they're just getting through this enormous body of work with these enormous, very long songs. And in that sense, there's more tracks this time around than part two, and some of them are even more adventurous, even if they don't quite create the sort of epic, glowing moment that the last record did for me. I found there was a couple of kind of Moon Sorrow-esque points in terms of the keyboards and synths that Dispater is working with, and otherwise I don't have a lot of deep thoughts to really dig into here, because it would just take a very long time to go chapter by chapter and song by song. And you can see I put in a fair amount of work talking about some of the higher points and lower points on the full listen in the written review. So that's where I would refer most people. I don't intend to get into an amazing amount of detail here, but I would say that overall, there's a different experience when you're being analytical with a record like this as opposed to just enjoying it. And I found that while I couldn't make this background music in any case, it was a pleasure to analyze and pay attention to those 2 hours of music. Although I certainly took a break in between records or LPs. Um, Otherwise, I do think this is, again, one of my highest ratings of November. I think it is another great work from the artist. It probably rates a little bit lower than the last piece just because I was so enamored with what he'd done with the epic doom metal feeling of it, with influences from like Bathory and Scald and things like that. But still, that's just more to my taste. And I found that sometimes the programmed drums or the sort of insistence of that black metal rhythm was cacophonic and not always in a good way on certain tracks. So there were points where it weren't perfect, but really didn't lower the score from great. So it's still a very high recommendation for me. A lot more thoughts in the written review if you'd like to read that. And you can check out the record now. It released last weekend.
Oh,